For the If you're kind of just curious what's going on in Utah, this is another organization I strongly recommend you guys get involved with. Anybody here member of Races? Look at all these hands. So ask around if you guys, you can go to the website, it's the emergency services. Emergency services? Safety.
It's Utah Emergency Management.
Emergency management, right, public safety, emergency management. So when you're chatting with each other, just ask and get some more information.
You have to apply with them, and it's a short little application.
Right.
And then they assign you a number.
Correct.
And the HF side of it, they only do their nets quarterly. So once a quarter, you get on there, and they call by county, and you give your call sign and your races number, and that's it.
It's every other
Can you
month.
guys hear that in the back?
Every other month?
Every other month.
Yeah. Anybody not here in the back?
So every other month they do
Okay.
VHF, UHF
So-
meds, and every other month they do HF.
Okay.
Every other month they do HF. It's like quarterly, you
Yes, I
said.
just did it.
They have their races
Every other
meeting
month,
coming
HF
up here
that.
soon too.
Yes.
Short little application. They get you a races number. You can check in, get involved. Good. Good. Thanks.
Hey, Chad's up.
All right, let's go to the next slide. These are all the people that have gotten their license in the last month. I'm not going to try and embarrass myself by reading all the names, but do we have any new hands here tonight? Yay! Welcome. What's your name?
Dave, AK79KB.
Dave. Welcome, Dave, and congratulations. And let's give a round of applause to all these other guys that. And then we have Richard Hare and Stephen Humes. Are either of you here tonight? No, but they got upgraded to generals, so congratulations to them as well. And I think it's time for Roger.
Hey, well, Roger's coming up. Can I say something? I talked to Mick today. He was at the hospital
Yeah.
for an appointment and had lunch with him, and he's in good health, good spirits, everything's good, and he's looking forward to anybody else that would like to check into the Jackson Hole Area Amateur Radio Club net on Monday nights on the 7/6 at 8 o'clock. Sweet.
Mine, yeah, just hit escape. And go down to, okay. Control F, oh, that was F6, F5. Do I leave my space bar, please?
Yep.
All right. She's the best.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
Okay, so we brought some stuff to demo and share. Tilt-up hinge, aluminum masts. There's a fiberglass mast. So if I get to a part in the presentation where you brought something that you can share, that's that part. Let's show it off a little. Okay. If your mast is taller than 10 feet, consider adding guidelines to the top for stability. If higher than 20 feet, add one or more levels using space. Use 3 or 4 guidelines per level. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you go to the next slide? Again. Yeah, this is what I'm saying right here. Okay, so I'm just summarizing this one. So choose 3 or 4 guidelines per level. 4 is easy and more stable, but 3 will require more level. To achieve the ideal angle, which is 45 degrees, set your stakes the same distance from the mast as the height to the guidelines. Consider using a radius rope to set your stakes the correct distance from the mast. This is a pre-measured rope loosely attached to the base or a center stake. With larger stakes, you can use the same stake for multiple guideline levels. Paracord works and is sufficiently strong, but it will stretch with time and require adjustment, so consider low stretch options. 500 feet is all the rope most people will need. That assumes a 44-foot mast, 2 levels, 4 guys per level, a radius rope, and an extra foot at each end for knots. Okay, next. I wanted to be like all the cool ham operators at events with their big masts, but everything I shopped for online looked too expensive. I bought a cheap aluminum telescoping flagpole and a drag-on base, but it had such soft aluminum that it was only good for one use with a lightweight roll-up antenna. I bought a bag of aluminum military surplus mast sections, like this, but I didn't know any of the best practices. I phoned Carl Pakras and Nozir Etzlach and got their advice to get started. And then I learned from my own experiences over time. I hope this presentation will help answer questions you may have had about masts as well. Do I need guidelines? Good, that's the right one. You can stand up a mast without guidelines with a tripod or a trailer hitch mount, but over 10 feet high should be guide. Adding height with sections to a trailer hitch mount is a great way to see for yourself how many sections it takes for your masts to start flexing from the weight. And I brought a mast we could put up right now to show you what I'm talking about. Here's one 4-foot section. Okay, there's 2. I think that's still pretty stable. Let's go to 3.
Do your kids know you have their toys?
Don't tell them. If we get this back home before they watch the video, which they won't, we're good. 3 mast sections in this case. I think that's getting to the territory where you might consider some guying. Let's try 4 mast sections. Yeah, we should have guided 3. So if you have a trailer hitch mount on your truck and you're just like standing them up and cranking them up, it's like, oh, let's try another one. You know? This will show you real quick how many you need to start guying. Okay. All right. So what guying angle should I strive for? For best, next slide. For best result stability, guidelines should extend from a mast at a 45-degree angle or wider. And I'm saying from the mast because if I say from the ground 45 or wider, then it's the wrong way, I think. I'm losing track. Okay, anyway, how far apart should the levels be spaced? So when I'm talking about levels, I mean, let's say You have a guy line from the top to the ground. Well, do you need one here, one here, one here, one here? What I learned from Carl and Noji is generally you just put one at the top and then split the difference. So generally 2 is all you would need for the kind of hikes that we're talking about. But again, do your test and see what actually works. Where was I? Okay, so a good rule of thumb is to place one level ladder near the top and split the difference halfway down from there for a second level. For temporary masts up to 50 feet high, one level every 20 to 25 feet should suffice. Use common sense. If it looks like it needs more, use more. Next slide. How many guidelines do I need at each level? So choose between 3 or 4. And what I'm talking about is from the mast, do you have 1, 2, 3, 4, or do you just try to save rope and do 1, 2, and 3? So 3 would use less rope and a smaller footprint on the ground, but dividing the radial footprint into thirds for the stakes is harder. 4 uses more rope, but visual alignment is really easy. You just can be like, okay, there's one over there, there's one here. Yeah, we're learned up. And then, go ahead and raise it, We're good. 3 is way harder. Okay, and if you have a telescoping mast, if you went kind of high and it's a bit wiggly, 4 helps the stability. Excuse me. Get 1 or more stakes for each guy line. You can either have different stakes for each guy line level, or you could stakes. Make sure your stakes are strong enough not to bend or break when pounded in the ground. The military surplus stakes are strong. Some people, Carl, even use large.
I think it's on the floor there.
Yeah. So here's an industrial nail. Makes for a good stake.
They don't bend either.
I went to Walmart and went to their sporting section, and they have nice steel stakes with a nice bent top, and I found out they will just bend as you pound them. Also,
They're designed for dinner.
I went to Harbor Freight, and they have these round plastic stakes, and I found out that they will break from being pounded, and then they just get floppy like a little hinge, with some plastic holding it. Yes?
Look in the pet section for those things they use to anchor dogs down.
Ooh, with the screw-in
The
stakes?
screw ones.
Yes.
Those hold pretty good.
Yeah, I actually tried that. Well, not that, but I went and got lag screws, and then is that in the picture? No. That'll be the next slide probably. But anyway, I tried an experiment with some screw-in stakes, and they worked, but then they were permanently damaged from all the rocks I had to go in. I guess.
It depends on how many rocks there are.
Yeah. Yes.
The other place you can go is go to pilot and airplane owners' websites, and they have stakes that are designed for tying down airplanes. And one of the ones that has been tested and proven to be the best is, they call it the claw. It actually has 3 stakes that go in at an angle, and they hold really, really well, and they're a lot easier to put in and a lot easier to take out than the screw-in.
That's important.
So go look for those. They're kind of expensive because anything that has airplane associated with it
Also has dollar signs.
also has dollar signs associated with it.
Another thing I found is the length matters. Like 12 inches really isn't enough. Like in the soft sand of the salt flats, wind knocked down my antenna twice in one night. It was fully staked.
Rebar is good though. Those, I think I paid 59, 69, 79 cents a piece for those at Lowe's. One of the important parts about it that I noticed when we're putting up antennas at field days, some people don't grasp the fact that you don't pound it straight into the ground. Same as your rope, you're using that 45-degree angle to your advantage. You try and put them in it close to a 45-degree angle so that when you loop your rope over it, your rope is hooked no matter what. You know, you don't have to tie it on. All you got to do is loop it on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
Yeah, so if this pen is the stake and here's the mast, you don't just go straight down.
no.
You like,
Yeah.
okay, what's perpendicular to that guy line?
Yeah, exactly.
But if this is a hill, that's a problem, which I found out in Squaw Peak. So, okay, wind forces can pull stakes out of the ground, because it did that to me in the software. Mitigate this possibility by angling the stake just a little bit, leading it away from the root. Stakes can be hard to see. Consider painting them with bright colors or attaching brightly colored flagging ribbons.
It's not so much a trip hazard, as once you take all the lines off and wrap the lines up, you gotta go pick your stakes up, and now you gotta go find them.
Yeah, next slide. Yeah, so here's the three that I was talking about. The middle one is the one I got from Walmart. The one on the left is the plastic one from Harbor Freight. The one on the right is the one I tried to make from lag screws. And when I was out there in, like this is not a pristine environment when you're over doing an event and they got, weeds up to your knees and you're trying to figure out where that stake is to line up on, on the other side of that mast. And it helps if it's a bright color. So I got some Krylon.
Just a side note on the Harbor Freight stakes.
Yeah.
They don't make good guying stakes, but they make great stakes to suspend your ground plane. If you're running ground wires along the ground, that gets the ground wires up off the ground, makes them more effective, and they don't conduct. So,
Oh, okay, so you
Good-
kind
good
of
option
around and
for
just kind of
suspending ground
go
planes.
parallel to the ground.
yep.
Okay. Okay, next slide. Oh wait, what was the last one again?
That was stakes. Are you in
Go
stakes?
back one. Up there. Page down, or page up. Because I thought I was gonna do stake first or race first.
Ooh. Okay.
Not page up, arrow up. Again.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, I didn't read this yet. So one way to raise, I just put the pictures on that one because I had less text. So one way is to raise the mast first, and then while someone holds it vertical, another person runs around staking it. I think that's what Noji was telling me that he has done on field days. Another way is to plan the measurements in advance so you can attach skylines first and then simply raise the mast into place against the guidelines with minimal adjustment. And another benefit of staking first is you can do it with less people, which is the issue I keep running into is I'm usually alone. And pro tip, try not to raise a huge mast by yourself. I should tell you, I have a Diamond X300A antenna, which is a nice antenna, lots of gain, and it's broken now because one too many. So now these are common. It's UP6. Okay, so
Another safety tip is be aware of any other things in the area like vehicles and people and campers and so on.
And especially power lines.
Don't ask me how I know this, but having a mast fall over on top of a car is expensive.
yeah.
How do you know that?
I told you not to ask me that.
So I had a scary story with that over at Sheep Canyon for the Squawking 50 this year. I heard this was a challenging signal environment. I wanted to go big, so I put the full 12 sections of this, 44 feet. But it was a challenge because you got a road going this way. You don't want to have skylines clotheslining people on the road. You have the trail that the runners are going to follow going up that way. You don't want to clothesline them, although it's tempting. And big trees. Like, how do I get a skyline from here through the tree to where it's got to go, traversing the tree? So, real life is challenging. It's easy to do it at a park, but not so easy in real life all the time. Go ahead.
Another thought that you want to do is take some colored surveyor's tape, or what have you, on the little flagging tape.
Yeah.
Take some of that with you so that you can tie colored bows on the guide ropes
Yeah.
so that people don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes that doesn't even help.
No, but
Most of the people you'll
that
catch.
falls into the category if you make something idiot-proof, they just make a better idiot.
Yeah.
So let's play this video. I'm not sure what it is anymore. See if it'll play.
Go to full screen.
Yeah, it's better.
Thinking.
So what this is demonstrating, this is my front yard, and I had been tilting antennas up, and what I learned from somebody here was the push-up method, where you push against the ropes. So let's say that the center where the mast will go is here, but you don't start there. You start way up here, lean it against the guy lines on the opposite sides, and then you start pushing up, and then when you're done, it's in the middle. So that's what I'm trying to demonstrate there. So that there it's still leaning on one side, and then you add a section, and then it straightens up. So the text for that is, you can escape out of that video. Okay, so the push-up method. First, you measure and stake to the mast, and then with helpers letting out slack in each line as you lift, simply lift the mast and keep inserting sections as you lift straight up. Just this one. So it's already vertical, then somebody holds it, and you stick another one under. So it's never leaning, it's never bursting the joint. Noji.
That's how we always do Nojis, yeah.
Noji, would you share your joint bursting story with the fabric?
My joint bursting.
Yeah. Okay. It's not pieces, is it? The reason you don't tilt up your masts?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. As you're putting multiple fiberglass poles together like this, they seem kind of strong, they seem pretty sturdy, but after you get about 3 or 4 of these going, so I didn't bring it up to demonstrate that, then what happens is they become kind of floppy, and as a matter of fact, if you get too high like that, you get this kind of thing happening. So, and then what'll happen is they'll just break right there at the most inconvenient place, that you can't fix it and you can't use it. You just have to kind of give it to the grinders, I guess. But anyway, so when it gets high enough, it just starts flopping way too much. So,
Yeah.
that's as good as I could do in here.
Yeah, so that's why Noji uses the push-up method, whether with people or whether you want to try leaning it against the pull of the guylines on the opposite side to try
So
to
that's a good point.
do it by yourself.
I don't put it out and then try to lift it up lengthwise.
Not at all.
Is that what you're getting at?
Straight up.
Yeah.
We've done good at it with him.
Okay, yeah, okay, now I get what Roger was getting at. So what he's saying is that what you don't want to do is put this thing way out on the ground, so you got, 7 sections here, and lift it up this way. When you do that, it'll just snap in two. So.
Yeah, and also we'll talk about the tilt-up method also. So that was push-up, where you basically keep it vertical the whole time, or if you're alone, maybe leaning against some guidelines that you preset, and you're just pushing it into place. Tilt-up method. First, measure and stake all but one. So let's say here's your mast.
So I'm going to the next one.
I think it's. Oh yeah, go ahead and try next and see.
Okay. Oh, I want to go back to the video.
Stick it down there.
So anyway, what's
There we
that?
go.
Oh yeah, I've got a little demo. Okay, yeah, let's play the video. So there, I've got all the guidelines attached, and
You're doing what you just
I'm
told
walking
you.
it up.
Your metal, they're not
At the same time,
fiberglass.
I've got my truck pulling a winch.
That does make a little bit of a difference.
So,
We can kind of demo that a little bit with this one if you want to, Roger.
yeah.
We, Chad and I both use this method. These are some ones that I built. Some of you know Kevin, he does a lot of videos. He's the one that showed me the first time, and he showed me the first time how he was doing these, and then I just improved on that a little bit.
Watch the light fixture above you.
Okay, yeah, it's not that high. Anyway, there's just 3 sections here. We've gone like 44 feet before these. Anyway, what we've done is take the guide wires, and we've done this with like 5 people, 6 people before on a field day. Have people out on these guide wires on each side, and we have people pulling, then we have people holding. And so as it goes up, the people on the back side are holding them back, and people on this side are pulling them this way. So we brought a bend, but you know, once you get it up there and get it straightened up and get it all guided, everything works out really well. It's just a gate hinge. Is all that was. And Kevin showed me with some plumbing fittings, the ones he made, and so it works out pretty good. And then we put those big stakes in here, in that piece of Lex in here. 4 stakes in there, so when we do tilt it up, it can't move. It can't slip out from underneath us.
So the important part is to make sure the guys that are on the guy lines are pulling from the top, not the guys in the middle.
Middle, yeah.
Because the guys in the middle can just pull it right now if they're out of control.
So if you're by yourself, there is a limit to what you can raise. I found 5 of these sections as much as I could do without anything else, because it starts to get, as I tilt it up, it's going forward, and it's not catching in the dirt, and I can't get it up, and it's too top heavy. Muscle it up. So there's a limit to how high you can go on your own. Go ahead.
I've got a question. I've seen these metal poles, but I've also, the one I've had and I've seen are the spider poles from Spider Beam. And I've got a 10-meter one. I just lifted up by myself.
Yeah, they're very
and
light.
got it up. And I've seen pictures with, what was it, 20 meter? It was a 20-meter pole. One man, he was struggling, but they didn't snap in the middle. And so all I'm saying is there's an alternative. On the other hand, if I lost control of a 20-meter pole, I'd like to be in the middle of nowhere.
When Kevin and I first did one of these in the park, we staked the 2 back. We staked down the 2 back ones so that it couldn't over-rotate on us. And then we just pulled it up. You could only pull it up so far because the back 2 are staked, so we got it up there in position and then tweak it after that.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I'm talking about, was measure and stake before.
yeah.
And it's a little
Ask
tricky.
told you what the formula is. There's a formula to figure out how long that cable is. So you don't
B
have to
squared
guess.
plus B squared equals C squared. Recognize that one?
Not your mystery.
Yeah, anyway, so back to this demo. So, you could be walking it up, but if it's very long, it's just going to go down behind you. And if you don't have this anchored up the middle, you're just going to be pushing it forward.
Well, that's why you stake the black
So
sand.
it's good to have a hinge, or what I do, where I actually set a center stake and then tie the base to it. So to get this up, you need both. You have somebody walking forward, and then in my case, because I'm always alone, I have a winch on my truck and a remote control, and it's pulling on the top as I'm walking it up. And then it goes into place with all the guidelines. So that was the tilted method. I just penciled another one while I was sitting here. You don't need a mast. You could have a roll-up J pole, a weight and a string, big tree, and hopefully there's not a lot of friction on that rope as the weight goes over, so it actually falls and you can pull it up. So anyway, that's an option to remember as well. Okay, how do I keep the mast base put? We just talked about this a bit. Here's a picture of the mast base that this will set in, and I just tie that to a stake so that as I'm tilting up the antenna, it can't get away from me too much. So when dealing with longer masts, you'll need to find a way to keep the mast from moving away from you as you tilt it up. Here are some ideas to keep the mast base put. Put a stake in the ground next to the mast base and tether it closely to the mast base to limit such movement, or use a tilt base, such as a hinge bolted through the mast base and attached to a board. Drive stakes through the holes in the board to keep it from sliding. So that was that one. Next slide. how high can I go? So the bags of military surplus sectional masts may come with as many as 12 4-foot sections. That's what this is. That's the bags on the back table, under the table. So 12 4-foot sections, subtract their little bit of overlap, and you have a 44-foot vertical mast. And if you're doing the push-up method, there comes a point where the mast will flex under its own weight, and you won't be able to get it any higher. With these aluminum surplus poles, 10 was the highest I could get it to go. Every time I added one more, it would flex the direction I didn't want it to go and come crashing to the ground with dangerous whipping. So that was scary. So respect its limit. So next slide. How high should I go? Get the base of the antenna above any local obstructions. For example, if you're setting up in your backyard, add enough height to make the top of the mast higher than your roof and most trees. And once you're above those local obstructions, additional height probably doesn't help as much. Any comment on that? Am I wrong?
Higher the better.
Okay.
That's absolutely true on VHF, UHF.
Okay.
On HF, how high you want to go depends on where you want your signal to go, because the pattern of the antenna will change based on height above the ground.
That's right. With all my demos, I've been focused on dual band VHF and UHF. But if you're thinking field fit, you got to modify what I'm saying here. So good. So talking about the mast materials, fiberglass, like those white ones there, and I think the ones on the back table. They're lightweight. They won't detune your antenna. They're good for hanging a roll-up J-pole from because it's non-metallic. And use the push-up method for this type because fiberglass masts are known for tearing through the joints when tilted up.
That's not the only drawback. They wear out. If you don't use gloves when you're playing around with the worn-out ones, you end up with a handful of fiberglass slivers. And so you either want to paint them or use gloves when you're handling those guys.
Yeah, the outer coating on them gets UV damage, so all of them that you can buy at a surplus have already been out in the sun for a long time, and they start getting hairy.
Yeah.
I wrote that down for next time.
Yeah.
Okay, aluminum. These here. Flexible and not terribly heavy and can help provide some RF ground for vertical antennas. PVC.
One note about the aluminum ones, they get hot. They get them out in the sun, they get hot, and they swell up and won't come apart.
Yeah, the PVC, if you really want to go cheap, and that's what I started with, that you're cheap and plentiful, but make sure you use at least 1 1/4 inch diameter of that stiffer Schedule 80 pipe to minimize the flex. Those are also good for hanging up a roll-up J-pole from because it's non-metallic. It can be cut into sections and used with dry-fitted slip joints, but that will introduce wobble. Another one, next slide. So here's my attempt with chain link top rail. Very sturdy and has swaged ends to permit joining sections, but it comes in those unwieldy 10-foot lengths. I couldn't figure out how to transport it to the salt flats, so I just tied it along the side of my truck, and I came home to have scuff marks all along the side.
Oh.
Don't do it.
I all common to job sites that right away. And if you take a little bit of a rag, put it around you don't scuff up your truck.
You can also get pool noodles or pipe insulation.
Yeah.
Pipe insulation, put it side there, and then you can strap it down, probably cut down on that.
One thought for your non-metallic poles, your fiberglass, and your PVC.
Yeah.
If you're using like a J-pole, you can actually run your coax up the inside of the pipe, and then you don't have it flopping around. Weird stuff.
All right, next slide. What rope is good for guy lines? Okay, you can use commonly available paracord, but be aware it is made to stretch up to 30%. Be prepared to make length adjustments, such as with a top line pinch. There are better low stretch options. You may have heard of Mastrand, M-A-S-T-R-A-N-T. They have low stretch rope made for mast guying, and it's a good value. Other options to consider are ropes of Dacron polyester, or those ones in the HMPE categories like Spectra or Dyneema, and even Kevlar, though I hear it doesn't hold on as well. The forces are not large on those lines, so you don't need rope with any more breaking strength than common paracord. Your stakes are more likely to pull out of the ground before the ropes will break.
It's on any kind of permanent installation. You want to make sure you use UV protected. I found out that cheap paracord that I used about 5 years ago, I just had to replace. The sun, baked it out where it was.
You must have got it at Home Depot.
Harbor Freight. All right, so guideline visibility next. So somebody was mentioning this. If you can find it, use brightly colored rope for your guidelines. Otherwise, tie brightly colored ribbons so people might trip or clothesline themselves on it.
You know, Carl put me onto the glow in the dark ones, so that they don't actually glow in the dark, but they're reflective. And so at nighttime, you got like a headlamp, you can see them, half a mile away. They're very, very bright.
These are left over from field day. They were still on my guide wires. So our safety officer at field day always goes around and double checks us.
There you go.
We gain points that way.
Yes.
All right, good. Thank you. Next slide. Guying collars versus knots. If you are good with knots, you might tie guy lines to the mast. A less scary option is to slip a guying collar onto the mast at the slip joints. Those will have 3 or more holes you can clip guy lines to with carabiners if you have them. Here's a picture of me with a bunch of bowlines. This space is a good place to tie my bowlines and knots to, so that's what I went ahead and did in that picture. Now I have a guying collar, so I'll be using that going forward. Okay, next slide. Antenna. If you have a vertical antenna, for example a Comet GP6, you clamp the antenna base against the top of the mast, like you see here. If you have a roll-up cable, then it's got a hole in it. You can maybe tie a string to that, just fix it to the mast. If you're doing HF and you have a wire, dipole or something, attach a small pulley to the top of the mast, and once the mast is raised, you can use that pulley to hoist your wire antenna into that inverted V position.
That's what this purple one is right here. That's what this purple one is right here. And attach the dog bone. I was just showing you. Attach the dog bone from the antenna to it, and then just hoist your antenna up right here, and then just tie it off. So that's how we did it. And you can make your own dog bones. Schedule 40. Throw your scraps away. Posing holes, and you got instant dog bones. Don't pay the high price for them.
Another note is if you're going to do a pulley, make sure it's a good pulley. If they got big gaps in them and you're trying to pull a piece of paracord up there, you can pull it right into the gap of the pulley. So I actually use like stainless steel carabiners. They're pretty low friction and they work just as well.
All right, next slide, radius rope. Consider attaching a pre-measured piece of rope to the mast base or center stake. Use this to set the correct distance to each of the stakes to maintain that desired 45-degree angle for the top guy line. You can also use a measuring tape or just paste it off with your shoe length. If you don't end up using the full height of your mast, it's easy to adjust the length of your radius rope to match. You simply match the rope to the length of the mast and tie a loop to mark that length. By matching the length of the rope to the length of your mast, you are ensuring a 45-degree angle.
As long as you're on a flat ground.
Yeah, hills, cars, trees, it all changes things. All right, setting angles between stakes. We're not actually in presentation mode anymore, or just, Just thought it would be more full screen. Anyway, it's easy enough to add the stakes when there are 4 guy line legs because you can just eyeball it across the mast and line up on the mast base. It's a little trickier with 3 guy line legs because you have to create that 120-degree angle. And one way to do this, I don't know if I should read all this. Well, one way to do this is to extend your radius rope and then fold it in half back to the mast base. This gives you the halfway point between the mast base and that radius. Mark this spot on the ground as point A. Then you mark a line perpendicular to this, extending to the intersection of the radius, points B and C. Place your stakes at points B and C, and then you have perfect thirds. In practice, you simply pick up the radius rope and walk the B and C line until you run out of rope, and then stake that spot as point B, retrace your steps to point A, and continue to run out of line on that, and then that third and last stake is easily eyeballed as a point opposite of B and C. This will get you very close to perfect thirds. Next, measurement of lines. The height to your top guy line level determines the lengths you'll need. You can search online for a triangle calculator to make your plans in advance. And what you were saying is that A squared plus B squared equals C squared formula. What do they call it?
Pythagorean.
Good job, class. Okay. So you would let, in the online calculators, A would be the height to your top guy line level. So, here. And B would be the radius from the mast base to the stakes, which would be the same as the number A in order to get that 45-degree angle. And then the calculator will give you the length of the hypotenuse, C, or the length of the line from the top to the stakes. And then you just add a foot on each end for any knots. Repeat for the second guy line level, but this time A is the halfway point on the mast, so you just leave B as before to calculate C. And then multiply by 3 or 4, depending how many guy line legs you were planning for. I think we're close to the end here. Yeah, last page. Okay, distances for common lengths. Another way is to work backwards based on common rope lengths. For example, if I buy my rope in a 50-foot length, like what you would see for paracord at Harbor Freight, I could subtract 2 feet for knots, leaving me 48 feet for a guy line from the top to the stake. So I enter 48 as the hypotenuse C in the triangle calculator with the 45-degree angle, and that tells me I can plan on setting the top guy line and stake radius at 34 feet from the base, neatly using up the length of a 50-foot rope. More examples. Next slide. So if you get a 25-foot length, then you're 16 feet from the base to the guy line level, 16 feet from base to stake. I'm not going to read this right. Yeah, 25 feet gives you the 16 foot and down. Okay, and then 50 feet would give you 34 feet from the base to the guy line level. 50 feet would give you that. 50 feet would be 34 feet to the base to the guy line level, and 34 feet from the base to the stake. I'll skip the last one. That's too much of a tongue twister. Okay.
I jumped a couple ahead, sorry.
The next slide is what about hillsides? There we go. Thank you. Consider either removing a section to give your downhill lines more reach, or just extend your line with another segment. The idea is to maintain that 45-degree angle or wider. And next, putting it all together. So taking all that I've learned, putting it into the tilt-up method. You start with the mallet, stakes, and radius rope. You drag the radius rope around to help determine the location where everything will fit and still keep you close to your station. Set the center stake where the mast should go and loop one end of the radius rope to the stake. Assemble the mast along the ground with the mast face pressed against that center stake to help keep it from sliding anywhere as you join the sections. Attach your vertical antenna and transmission line to the mast now, but don't attach any ground plane radios yet so they won't get bent. If you have a wire antenna, rig it to the pulley now for hoisting later. Next slide. Attach a transmission line and a balun if you're into that. I'm not really sure when we need a balun, so I'm just gonna give you that. So gather the mallet and remaining stakes and walk with the free end of that radius rope to set the stakes in their correct positions. So,
Thanks for giving our next suggestion for our next meeting.
Oh, the balun? Good. Lean each stake away from the mast and pound them into the ground with that mallet. Rig guy lines to the mast and the stakes. To avoid crossing guy lines, start with the back stake near where the top of the mast was laying on the ground, and rig the pre-measured guy lines to the top and middle guy lines first. If you don't already have a spare rope holding the bottom of the mast and center stake, wrap the radius rope around the two now. This will serve as the tilt-up hinge. Then you lift the end of the mast, and if you haven't attached the ground radio wires to your invertible antenna yet, do it now. So many radios testing this stuff. Next, 12, hold on to the unattached guy line as you start walking it up higher. If you have help or remote controlled winch, have them pull the mast by the unattached guy line as you continue walking the mast up as much as you can. Then once raised, you fix the remaining guy lines to the last stake. Confirm vertical orientation and make adjustments to the top line hitches as needed. And if you have a wire antenna on a pulley, hoist it up now. So anymore, I just use my trailer hitch and my trailer hitch mount and just up to maybe 5 sections. And I just haven't needed the height to justify guy lines, but so I don't actually practice what I preach anymore. But that's my presentation.
Roger, can I make one comment?
Yeah.
The where those guide wires are attached on that mast right there, you can save yourself a lot of time and trouble. You can order those washers with the inside and outside diameters at Fastenal. Either fit over this part of it and sit on this, or slide over this and rest right here like I have right there. You can, or you get some kind of different kind of mast where you want a particular size washer. You can buy those at Fastenal with the inside diameter and outside diameter, exactly what you want, and they just drill the holes for how many guide wires you want on them. So, and they're only a couple dollars a piece. You order them online.
Just be careful you don't buy hardened washers, because it's really hard to drill. Ask me how I know. How do you know? It's really hard to drill holes in them.
That is true.
Yes, in the back.
Just a comment on knots. If you're using a knot that you're not trying to slide around like a top line, I've had middling success with square knots. I prefer to use figure eights with follow through. It's a knot that I use in rock climbing. I trust my life with it. It'll hold the mast just fine.
I got a comment about that.
Go ahead, Tom.
Truckers' hitches. We use these at field day a lot because they're easy to make adjustments on. Put a loop in it. Run it around your stake. Run it through there. Put a couple of half hitches. Pull it taut. Put a couple of half hitches. Really simple and easy. If you got to go back and make adjustments later, all you got to do is undo your half hitches, pull a little tighter, or let it loose. And we use those all the time up at field day. Really easy. Just to put a loop in your, run it around the thing and pull it tight. It's just like super easy.
Very good. Any questions, comments? You make check-ins?
Right, Jerry?
I found that if you've got a silent mallet, a claw hammer that has a relatively flat claw is very good for pulling out stakes, and you're not tearing your hands up on rope or stake.
Oh, does anybody want to learn how to get stuck stakes out of the ground?
Pound it in deeper.
I learned from Chad, actually. So he showed me what to do, and so I got this little crowbar thing. It's just a little pry bar. You just shove it in alongside the stake, push, and it comes right out. Just magic.
Another option, if you've already got your mast down, you can generally, get a rock or something, and you got a big lever there to pull them out.
True. Another thing that I've done to get stakes out of the ground is you just kick them laterally. So
Sideways.
create that little V of dirt next to them, and then that side-to-side motion, and then they can come straight up.
I'd like to know.
Yes.
If you really want overkill, the thing I've done is I've got the T-post extractor.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the only thing it hasn't worked on are the corners of my chain link fence and cement. Besides that, they go out and goes everywhere.
Oh, they'll pull them out in cement too. I've done it.
Just like that.
Well, we did it. We made it to 7:45. Thank you, everybody.
Do I get back to the sunshine?
Minimize, well, just bring up.
Depending on how windy it is, the only put the upper one on. We've done it before. No guys. Gotta build one of those hedge booms.
Hey, Brennan, UVARC October door prizes. Get your tickets out. Anybody else come in late that needs a ticket? Raise your hand.
Over here.
Yes.
Oh.
Raise
Oh, answer. Okay, sorry.
your hands and keep them up high if you
Yes,
need a
please.
ticket.
Thank you. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting 4 is something you got?
5. No. I got 5.
You got 5?
Okay.
You got 5?
Off of that, driving down the road.
Keep your hands up for tickets.
You want to pass on?
Yeah, that's fine. Your hand up, thank you.
What's that? You already got one.
Yeah, but he's over 55, you forgot.
I did. Over 60 moments.
Okay, I feel like I need to clarify something really quick.
Yeah, you're 55.
No. I live in the 55 plus community. But I live there with my parents because, well, they're old. But I am not 55, I am 31. Hence, I am the youngest resident of the 55 plus community.
So that,
Okay, now that that out of the way.
by default, that's
still one for
55.
the senior discount.
Brent,
Well, yeah.
by default, that makes you 55.
Yes, but I'm the youngest and just looking 55 plus for there.
No, that's the difference.
But you find the dates must be hard.
Actually, no, people have lined me up with their grandchildren, actually. They have this all the time. Okay, door prizes. We actually have quite an array of door prizes tonight. We have the ground wire.
Grounding rod.
Oh, grounding rod. Okay, the grounding rod.
That's some
Notice
serious
this has
wire.
been very popular. This will be part of our main prize tonight. Along with that, we have
PVC.
PVC. I was getting there. Don't rush me. Gosh.
Yeah,
PVC cutters.
you better hold his rod.
PVC cutters. ARRL membership. And
Computer, the red
oh, flashlight. Yes. Well, hold on. I'm trying to decide what's main prizes and what's not. We have a really bright flashlight. Sorry. And then we have the Retvis radio, programmed, ready to go. So we'll start off with those, and then for our main prizes tonight, we have, of course, the Hawkers J-pole. And then this thing right here is actually a computer. This is a computer. It's got 4 gigabytes of memory, so it's not a lot, but it's enough for you to do like word processing and things like that.
FT8.
FT8. And so those are our main prizes tonight. Thank you, Noji. Okay. $876. 876. And you are 10.
So did you keep it for the main grand prize?
What?
Doesn't he keep it for the main grand prize?
No. So if you win one of the
Okay.
first prizes here, you don't get a main prize.
I've got.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got.
Or you want to give it to me?
Sure.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I will never do that.
Yes, you will.
Okay, I would, but I won't.
So what choices do they have, Grant?
What?
What choices do they have?
Oh, I already went over the choices. They have the flashlight, the PCP,
PCP, you give it tranquilizers.
PCP cutters, the Redfist radio, the ARRL membership, and the grounding rod. 854. 854, that'd be you. Do you have a grounding wire, even? Yeah.
That's a rod, not a wire. Well, so you didn't tell me if I was allowed to pick.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Or just the.
Would you like the grounding wire? Or the
Rod?
rod? Sorry, grounding rod?
Why not?
Okay. And then you have these four braces.
I was gonna say, we're the way.
I am so sorry, I just now
That's all
caught
I put in. They're hard to put in. Especially in the middle.
Okay, hold it up. There we go. All right, let's picture your round rod. Stand over here with you.
And then I had to go to mine. That one, put it
Gotta do it this way. All right, thank you.
Like I said, I've been living in the 55 plus community too long, sometimes things slip my mind. Okay. Finally, here come my helpers. So if anyone doesn't get what they want, it's their fault.
I got one that I put in, and then I changed my position. It's now about that deep in the yard.
Eight, 8, 8. All right.
So we're supposed to pick from what?
So you have these three traces here.
Straight, and what is this?
This is the Redfist radio. It's programmed, ready to go.
It's a ham radio transceiver.
Okay.
There you
Hold it
picture.
up, hold it up.
Hold it up. Yeah, smile big thing.
Okay, moving backwards. 887.
Have to do that.
887, all right.
David.
Can I get the dog bone?
The dog bone. Sure, take it.
You can have the dog bone.
I make him do.
I got a
Back up a
million
little
of
bit. Back up a little bit. And okay, here we go. There we go. Thank you.
Okay, let's start with your tickets first this time. We'll switch it up. Okay, 878. 878. That would be him. Okay, now we're moving on to the main prizes.
There we go.
So this is how I like to do main prizes. With the Pockers J-Pull and the computer. Whoever I pick first will have their grabs at either or. The second person, well, will get whatever's left. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take that's it there. 883.
All right.
Which one would you like? Of course you do. Of course he picks the box. And that's okay.
I hope I do numbers next.
Yeah.
Just my luck.
Thanks for that. Okay.
Hold up.
Tell you what.
There we
We're
go.
on this little man right here. Reach into the box. Can you reach into the box?
He has a ticket.
He has a ticket. Oh, did they already reach into the box?
No, that's his ticket.
That's
his
his
ticket.
Okay, never mind. So you
His
know what?
dad's ticket.
I'll take it. For this last one, I just got a ticket for this last one. I want you to be mine. 864. 864. Oh, praise the Lord! It's happening. All right, congratulations to all of our door prize winners, and especially to the one who got that computer.
All right. All right. Hold up, there we go. Smile really big. There we go, thank you.
Everybody else
So thank you for coming. QSY is at Lucy's Pizza afterwards, which is just right over here. We'll need help putting the chairs away, and thank you very much. Oh wait, nobody's got an announcement.
Who cares?
It's not an announcement, just let you know that we couldn't hold these meetings here in this nice place and so forth without Heath. Heath back there is our sponsor. He's the Orem City Emergency Manager.